It's good afternoon, everyone. It's great to have some people on board, Matt, and talking about pre-listing packages and how those are utilized. This morning, I was on a Zoom call a Zoom meeting every Monday morning at 9 for our Main Tree, our Humboldt County agents. And one of the things that Larry said this morning is real estate right now is a lot like picking your family doctor. And last week, when I went and had a sales meeting in Santa Rosa, everybody noticed, and I've just got a Band-Aid on my finger now. I don't have the metal thing I'm still supposed to wear, but I managed the night before to cut through my finger, and I actually needed stitches, but so I go, my doctor sees pictures of how deep the cut is in that. Nice cut from a bread knife, and goes, you need to come in and do stitches. So I did the office meeting, and then I went to the emergency room, and the doctor that I got, he said, oh, wow, you really cut. I saw the pictures. You really cut yourself pretty badly there. And I said, yeah, I was pretty stupid, but yeah, I did it. And he goes, hey, there's some good news. I just got my medical license in Barbados at a coffee shop. Now, I've never done stitches before, so you're going to be the first person I've ever done stitches for. And he goes, so I hope you're okay with that. And like I said, I just got my license. Well, I got such a kick out of him that he was saying that, and we were having fun. And then he determined that I waited too long to get stitches, so they put this other kind of stitch tape on to hold it and make me hold my finger out. But the point was, and listening to Larry this morning, is that right now, when we see a market change, it's more important than ever for why the consumer picks us over another brand or other agents. And we know in this market that's been really hot, we know that there's a lot of consumers that look for the discount broker, because let's face it, you could pick a price, and if you were close, you'd probably sell it, and there's a chance it might have gone over asking. And so there's a lot of people that went out and got their license, which really isn't that hard to do, hung themselves, and have no training, have no experience. They don't have agents, managers, staff to help them do, but they were successful at selling property. What we're seeing now is the consumer needs us more than ever. And so our level of professionalism has to go from here to here. And having prepared packages when you meet that consumer makes the difference of somebody that went completely through med school at Harvard and somebody that got their license at Barbados at a coffee shop. So think about that stuff as you're going to the consumer. Now, I use a lot of times a pre-listing package. I've done this most of my career. I never like to be put on the spot when I first meet that consumer, that potential seller at their home. I really need to get in that home. I need to look at the condition. I need to look at the yard. I can't just do a drive-by. I need to be inside and experience that property to really go and do my homework in regards to what is the value of this house in its current condition. I never how many people, when you first go, well, what's my house worth? What's my house worth? And I'll ask the people, what do you think it's worth? Because I want to see if they're realistic or not. But I go, I really can't give you a price right now. This is our initial meeting. I wanted to see the condition of your home. I wanted to make some suggestions, see what you're willing to do. And then I will go back, I will do my homework, and we'll determine the best marketing strategy and the best price for your property to sell. How does that sound to you? And so I want to engage that consumer. I want to do some rapport building and that ahead of time. Now, on my pre-listing pack, which Haley has designed, The goal is this is an objection handling document. This is not something I go over with the consumer. As a matter of fact, I'll probably have a notepad, just a yellow legal pad of paper, and I'll be going through taking their notes, and I'll have this in my hand. I want them to think about what is Randy carrying around this property while he's looking at it and kind of determining what kind of condition our home is in. I want them to think about this. So I don't want to just give it to them right off. As we go through the pre-listing packet, the first thing that we're going to try to do is we're going to talk about ourselves. So you can see here, Randy Kaufman, President, Realtor. And again, I will have to play with this because I've got Amy telling me how close to the camera I need to get. So thank you, Amy. So I'm going to talk about who I am. You know, I lived in Sonoma County for over 35 years. I have to change that because it's been longer than that. But I talk about different things that I'm involved with, different community services, you know, what I work with our agent count. I'll also here on the next page, I'll bring in what I've got is like organizations that I'm involved in or been involved in, professional affiliations, awards and achievement, top overall producer for the Jack Warner Group in 1993, started to age me, Coldwell Banker International President Circle, Creative Property Services, top volume, top sales, and top listing agent, and that. Those of you that are new to the business, I don't want you to freak out about these things that I'm talking about right now. What I want you to do is I want you to think about what industry you came out of and think of doing your bio in a way, and our staff is excellent as far as helping you work on that. But think of your bio is the services industry that you came from before. How can I turn that into a value for that consumer? So think of, you know, what value you have from your previous experience and put that in your bio. My experience, you know, whatever it is, you know, working with people, working at a daycare center has taught me to be able to communicate clearly to other individuals. So think about your value, turn that into what that means to the consumer. Don't worry and don't get into discussions in regards to how long you've been in the business, okay? That's not what's important here. What's important is who you are and what you're going to do for them and to sell that value proposition to that consumer. The next page goes into what's here in the pre-listing packet. So, you know, we've got pre-listing appointment, set a price and time frame. I've highlighted that because one of the most important things, I went to a listing appointment one time more than once. And when I sat down and talked to the individuals, you know, I thought they were ready to put their house on the market in 30 to 60 days. What I found out is that they wanted to have a discussion with me, but they were looking at putting their property a year from now. So that's taught me some valuable lessons. We have to find out from those individuals, what is their time frame? Because time frame also reflects into what we price the property at, right? Because if a lot of people that are willing to wait and take their time to go on the market tend to want to overprice their property because, oh, we've got time to sell it. So it's super important to get down time frames. What's their motivation? Are they wanting to buy another home? Are they moving out of state? Do they have a job transfer? What do they have? So when we get to the next page, so we've gone over what the goal is. Set a price and time frame, develop a marketing strategy, listing prepared and brought to the market, offer isn't presented and negotiations begin, buyers do their due diligence, tracking and removal of contingencies, transaction finalized and closed. So we're setting up that first page with the consumer basically stating there's a lot involved in a real estate transaction, right? So again, we're building our value proposition to that consumer. The next page here is listing and selling process. So we make these books up for you. So anything that you haven't seen, all you have to do is reach out to Amy is basically helping me here today. She'll send you this package if you'd like it. So just email her and we can get it to you.
I just put a link in the chat that you can access it on a Google Drive. So at least you can take a look at it while we're going. So just click on that link and you should have access. Throw in the chat if you have any trouble.
Perfect. So when we're looking at the listing process here, we're looking at first thing, market evaluation and research. We need to control the narrative. So the first thing we have to do is we have to show our value proposition that we have to do research to determine the price on what we're going to market your property for. Does that make sense to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Understand your needs, motivations, and objectives. I just went over that somewhat. Examine the marketing and sales plan. Select your real estate professional. Review comparative market analysis. Establish the initial asking price. Prepare the home for sale. So in 3 spots, we're trying to get those individuals that are going to sell their property, we're trying to get them thinking about price and that there's research that has to do to come into that price. So there's a reason for that when we do these pre-listing packets. Remember, this is something we're not going over with our sellers. This is something we're leaving for them to review. The goal of this whole thing is to help handle objections. So when you go in there to close on the listing, you've already got them thinking about certain things that are important in the sale of their property. Steps to the selling process. Initial consultation, home preparation. I have highlighted home preparation because we need to get our sellers engaged in helping market their property. It's more than we can do. We have to get them to interact. We have to get them to prepare. We have to get them to clean up things. And that can be a tough situation. And it means dollars and cents for them when they put the property on the market. So next page, preparing your property for market. Everybody see that? Getting some nods there. Curb appeal. You would think that this is a no-brainer, but I bet anybody out there can raise their hand that has asked their clients, mow your lawn, trim your hedges, rake your walkways, and those things, and can't get them to do it. And those people tend to be the hardest people that we deal with in regards to when we put the thing on the market and it doesn't sell. People want finished properties. Even a fixer-upper, we can put some glitter on and clean it up and make it look good. Staging, interior condition. Again, one of the value and what separates us from other companies and separates you as agents is that you should be able to take courses in the greenhouse and that about staging. There's people that you can hire to do that, people that you can hire your clients to do that, but go through and do that initial walkthrough with them. Hey, are you able to, if we put this on the market, are you able to put some of this stuff in storage so that we can make the house feel more open and airy? I know that you're living here now, but that could really help with the sale of your property. Does that make sense to you? You know, so, and we've got Lori and a very, very cute puppy dog.
Randy, do you want me to share the guide?
What's
on
that?
the screen? Do you want me to share the guide on the screen so people can see that as you're talking, or just have them look at it, look at it on their own?
Screen share of the guide.
Yeah, we can you do a screenshot of the guide?
I think Heather can while you're.
Yeah.
Heather, can you do that?
Yep.
All right. So Staging. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Heather. So we're on staging and interior. Again, these are breaking down, asking the seller to be involved. And again, this guide is designed to be that objection handler, that you're not the bad guy going, you know what, get your kids' stuff off the floor, put it in drawers. This is trying to help you get them help themselves in the preparation of their property for sale. Staging and interior, remove clutter, put extra furniture in storage, organize closets and cabinets, depersonalize decor, have a professional stager, be ready to show. This is so important. You know, I talk to agents and I hear agents. We had a listing down south where the client wanted to control the lockbox, wanted to put the lockbox out when it worked for her. Is that a way to sell a property? No. What happens when we give our sellers the ability to control what we're doing for marketing? If it doesn't sell, whose fault is it? Anybody out there? It's our fault, isn't it? No, if they don't let us put a sign on the property, they don't let us put a lockbox on the property, they don't make it easy to show the property. I can tell you a lot of real estate agents out there are extremely lazy, and they are not going to make the effort to show a property that's not easy to show. So it's important that you convey that to your seller, that, you know, people come into town, they see your listing, don't you want them? And I love their answer sometimes, well, that person's probably not going to buy my property. And it's like, how do you know that? They might have come in town and your property happens to be on the market at the perfect time. It's exactly what they want. And you limited the ability to show, and they don't have the time to come back when it's convenient for you to show the property. It needs to be convenient for them. You must convey that. This sets it up so you can convey that. Market strategies. That result in sales. Isn't that our goal? And isn't that what we have to convey to that consumer immediately, is our value? And that with the advertising our company's doing, with the professional marketing, with the professional, beautiful pre-listing package that we're leaving at the house, that's going to show you at a higher level. And so again, we need to set the stage for that consumer. So market strategies that end up in price. Empowering the real estate community. One of the great advantages of being on the multiple listing, and why on a typical property that we get a seller about 9% more than what they will get on their own if they for sale by owner. We do that because of our network, because of the multiple listing service, because of the national, you know, media that helps us, and our social media sites and that help promote those properties. We get more traffic than somebody that just has a for sale by owner sign in there and puts an ad in the paper, right? You need to promote that. You need that seller to understand that there's a lot more to this than just throwing the property on the market. Deploying the power of online marketing. Maximize neighborhood marketing. Responsive follow-up and feedback. One of the things that I think that we lack a lot is that follow-up. And it's always disappointing to me when we reach out to that agent that showed the property and they can't even email us back their response, what their buyer thought, and that. So anytime an agent asks you for that, remember, you should always be following up with those agents to find out what their response, and utilizing those agents. If you have an overpriced property, wouldn't you rather go to that seller and go, hey, I've had 5 showings on the property. this is the response from those 5 agents. They feel that a prices that were too high in price. Wouldn't you rather go back to the seller with 5 agents from 5 different companies stating that than you trying to convince them that it's overpriced? I would. I like to shift that responsibility because they're showing potential buyers that are feeling that way about a property. And properties that sit on the market now, are properties that typically price overcomes all. Now there's going to be adjustments in the markets, of course, because, we're going to start seeing the use of more buy down of rates and that kind of thing. So
Hey,
that's
Randy, how about ones that haven't been shown at all?
ones that haven't been shown at all. Again, you need to go back to that client and say price overcomes all. It's an active market. And then you have to go back and redo your research and go, hey, a house two blocks over just sold. That's considerably less than you, right? So we have to redo our research and go back to that seller and explain to them in regards to the issues with price. Because as I say, price overcomes all. Then you go into what we're leaving, something that we're very, very unique with Better Homes and Gardens is that we are the one brand that is in the hands of 40 million Americans a month. There is no other brand that can say they have an advertisement in front of 40 million people. And that's not even talking about the digital side of it. That's why we get so many hits on our social media sites, and that is because of the incredible marketing that's out there for BHG. So instant brand recognition with 97% brand awareness, exclusive access to media giant consumer list, unparalleled digital presence. You want that promoted to them so that they know it's not only you that they're getting all this extra stuff to help promote their properties. So now we're on powerful market impact. What did I say earlier? I said we need to get that seller involved in the selling process. We need them to help us get them the highest and best price. And we do that from them preparing the landscaping, the inner house, getting rid of extra furniture, all which was in the pre-listing package earlier in this presentation. Those things we want to move them along to be able to see we need their help for their success. It's critical that the first impression makes a positive and powerful impact. How many times have you guys walked in, any of you that have shown a bunch of property, you've walked in a house and you immediately walk in the door and go, oh my God, how quick can I get out of this house? Whether it's smell, that initial, impact of walking into it and clutter in front of a door, any of those things. So these are things we need their help with. So property preparation, quality photography. I love these photography shots that I will never get. I can understand taking a picture of a nice bathroom, but when there's actually a picture in the multiple listing service of the toilet with the lid up, I will never get over that. It's like, really, guys? Don't you think that one might not be appropriate for the consumer? We find that listings that have at least over 12 photos, but when you jump and double that up to 24 photos that somebody can look at, get a lot more hits than the ones that have under 12. I suggest if you can get in the 20 photo mark in any of your marketing advertising, that's really important. Video is more and more important. And of course, Moxie works in that, and our staff can help you turn your photos into video for that consumer. The average attention span for Americans is running about 3 seconds. So a lot of you, after 3 seconds of me starting this, probably forgot that I'm actually talking to you. So do know we need to engage, and video, movement, extra photos really benefit that. And I don't really know anybody in our company that's not getting professional photos. And it's so important because that's your professionalism at stake. Impactful presentation, competitive pricing. So now we're getting back into the price. Together we establish a pricing strategy for your home that will best catch the attention of prospective buyers. Now, I'm not doing a market analysis class today, but just to kind of fast forward this a little bit, I tend to have a range as far as price goes. It's really hard to say this is the number the property is going to sell for. So I will do a low and high. And I preface, when I do the actual listing presentation, I preface that it's really dependent on what you're willing to do to your home prior to us getting it on the market. What are you willing to do as far as manicuring the property, carpets clean, maybe even a replacement of carpets, paint, any of those things. So using a range kind of keeps you safe in regards to your pricing strategies on any home. Pricing your home got to be the most difficult thing. And as we see the market change and sellers still thinking, hey, this was the last comp, I'm going to tag on 5% more than that comp, and their property is going to sit. Just heard this morning somebody that goes, God, my clients offered $20,000 less than the list price of the home. And they go, we got it. And it was priced right. So my initial question is, okay, if it was priced right, did it start at the price that you wrote the offer? And she said, no, it's been on the market 30 days, but it was another $20,000 higher than it is now. So getting it $20,000 less to me means that of course it was overpriced. It's set in a hot market and the seller just took $20,000 less. If they priced it where it was listed at now, they probably would have been pretty close to that list price and gotten top dollar for it. But that's what happens to you. Buyers understand value. Can we all say our buyers are more educated than ever? They have so much data that they can reach out and get in regards to pricing of a property. So it's important that you be the expert. Zillow is not the expert. Zillow averages 29% off. Say bye, Lori.
Bye. Okay.
So buyers are more educated. We have to control that. They're going to know about that listing down the street that sold. You need to know about it too before you go onto your presentation. So buyers understand value, the risk of overpricing we've just discussed. We get down when your home is priced too high, criteria of potential qualified buyers, comparable homes at lower price will seem more attractive to buyers. Fewer prospects will respond to our marketing. Fewer brokers, agents will actively promote your home as a value of their prospective buyers. Fewer offers will be received. You may lose buyers who are not willing to negotiate. Marketing time is prolonged. There's a lot said on this page. And again, like I said originally, this is your objection handling document that you want to use. You want them to think, oh my God, when they're home, before you come back for your listing presentation, you want them to think about, oh my God, I don't want to overprice my home. I really need to listen to the realtor. Again, your value proposition. I need to see what the price is. What they want for it has nothing to do with what a buyer is willing to pay, right? And we have that constantly on a regular basis to us. Well, I need to get this much out of it. Well, These are some things that you might be able to get more out of it, depending on what kind of condition that you're going to produce in the home. But this is a powerful thing we want them to think about before we go to the listing. And then we follow it up with the next page, because pricing's tough. Another thing I heard at the sales meeting this morning was, man, somebody put a property on the market over here and it's sold, for higher than I thought it was worth. Well, there's always those outliers that all of a sudden come up. We don't know the condition. We don't know what all it had in the property, why it sold for more. But what we have to know is taking a few different comps and adjusting the price accordingly. So this goes through on our next page, market value pricing. A competitive asking price results in more qualified buyers. Can we all agree with that? Make sense? If we're priced right, more qualified buyers are going to want to see it. Now, Lisa, you had brought up just a minute ago, what if I'm not getting anybody there? So we have to go back to what our pre-listing package teaches us, and that's condition and price. Those are the only two things really. We can't change the location, right? Our location's our location. But if we're not getting in an active market, people to that home to show, brokers aren't showing it. Why? Because do they think it's overpriced? Probably. Or is our condition not attractive with our price to get the property sold? Property that's competitively priced takes advantage of prime marketing momentum, generates an increased number of showings, generates increased numbers of offers, generates realistic offers, sends a message to buyers about your motivation as a seller. Remember, we talked about motivation. We talked about, are you moving out of town? Are you being transferred? What is their motivation to sell? And what does that timeline look at? That's important too when you're talking to people about price. Send a message to buyers about your motivation. Again, percentage of buyers who will view your home based on your listing price strategy. So I love this graph and showing that if you're at market value, you get 90% of your value. If you're 10% over market, you get 75%, right at market, 60. So utilize the graph for your prospective client. Now, I can't see all of you out there, but I'll ask Amy, raise your hand if you have an issue with talking about commission. Commission is one of those things that we get into discussion. I have to say, I get into it very rarely because of my referral network, but here and there we do run into it. And I would say agents as a whole and our industry really don't talk about how commission is paid. Everybody goes, if I'm at 6%, and we did this, I had Haley do this at a 6% commission rate, but these people think that you as an agent is getting that full 6%. They don't realize that that's cut in half, because sometimes we don't do that. We don't explain wholeheartedly, or we do explain and the seller just doesn't understand that we're giving a competitive commission to that other side to be able to attract them to come sell your home. Now, we had a brokerage up in Lake County that was very clever and said, we're only going to give $1 to a cooperating agency. Now, we have a responsibility of showing all listings. That's our ethical responsibility. But what happened and what I saw with our agents presenting offers to that company is, one, any buyer that was willing to pay the commission offers way less. Two, the agent's trying to negotiate, as you have to ethically, negotiate a commission with a seller prior to even showing the property. And a lot of buyers that were involved in that negotiation ended up walking away from buying those sellers' properties because, one, they didn't want to pay the commission. They wanted it in the purchase price. Two, the negotiation should have been about negotiating the highest and best price, or best price for a buyer and seller, not us having to fight to negotiate our commission. So we've seen that kind of flutter out because it didn't work. People, and especially people that are just buying a property, you know, they need those costs handled in their loan amount. This gives you a good opportunity to explain the brokerage, what the agent gets, what the buyer's broker gets, selling agent gets, seller's broker. There's taxes, there's all these things that we have to pay. But again, we've designed this book to be an objection handling piece. So as I started, I'll take this around, I'll have my yellow pad, I'll be writing notes about the property, things that I need to remind. I actually do a lot of pictures now of the listings, now that we have cameras that do that. Of course, when I started, we didn't. But, you know, I'll take pictures of the inside of the home, and that'll help me remember certain aspects besides my notes. And at that time, when I'm ready and I've worked on building rapport, I've gone through and made some recommendations to try to get a feel of what they're willing to do to their home prior to selling their home. I want to find their motivation in this meeting. Remember, I'm not going to talk about price. I'm going to ask them what they think their property's worth, but I'm not going to talk about what I think it's worth. And 9 times out of 10, before I hand this to that seller, they're going to ask me again, well, what do you think it's worth? And I'm going to go, you know, I just can't shoot from the hip. I owe it to you to go back and do my research that determine value of the property. Does Tuesday or Wednesday work for you for that meeting? So I'm going to try to close them on my second appointment right there. And then I'm going to say, there's some things before I come back for my listing appointment with you and talk about the price of your property that I'd really like you to review. And I want to leave this for your review. Will you review that for me? So I'm also going to try to trial close them on reviewing this paperwork. Haley and I have talked about maybe changing this somewhat and making it even more visual than it is. And we've got a lot of other projects, but we are going to work on that. But again, we're trying to get that second appointment. We've given them something of value. I can tell you the competition that I've seen when I go to a property doesn't have something like that they're leaving at their first appointment. They might do a market analysis like this, but they typically aren't leaving something to wait. So you're also making a standard for what the next company ought to look at. Now, a couple of our agents that I've talked to that have been winning at listings against some pretty top performers said that their clients have basically told them, nobody's left us anything like this. So the consumer does like it. They like the touch, feel. Again, it's giving them something of value. You've said a little bit about yourself in here, and you've put a lot of homework on them of things that they need to do so that you can sell their home for the highest and best price. Does this make sense?
Hey, Randy, the very last page there on the commissions, is not in the sample I shared. Could you hold that up so see if
Oh
we can
yeah,
see it?
sorry.
I don't have the updated one, so
That is something that
it's hard to see.
Haley created.
Lift up a little more.
Ah,
Lift it up, right there. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, so that we'll get that out to everybody. But it breaks down in an easy to understand that commissions go 2 different directions, and then they go 2 more different directions after the close of escrow. So that consumer doesn't think you as the listing agent has made all this money, and they don't think about your taxes that you pay. They don't think about the transaction coordinating. They don't think about all the things that are involved in the sale of their property. Do we have some questions out there? No questions? Rob's just gonna scratch his ear. And Trudy looks like she's ready to laugh. Good. Well, I hope you felt this was of value. It's been very, very successful in my career. I've done a listing, pre-listing pack, literally probably for 35 years. I've given somebody a pre-listing nice thing to try to help me handle objections. And it's funny when you do get into a two-part listing presentation, the pre-listing and then go back for trying to close the listing. There's a lot of questions that are answered in this book that you don't get when you do your final presentation. And that to me is a value, because that tells me that they read and looked at it. Now there's times, and you guys have to have a feel for it, that I'll be at a listing presentation. And this happened to me a little bit ago. I was against the top agent in Sebastopol, and I knew she presented before me. We were the only two up for the listing. So my presentation was second, but I knew if she didn't close them and I got my chance, I needed to close them. So there's times, even though you have this, that you're going to have to change your presentation. So never think that it always 100% of the time is a two-part listing presentation, pre-listing listing. Sometimes you're going to take this pre-listing package and you're going to close the people right there on the spot. So it does not hurt to conveniently have documents in your car in regards to listing that property. Because if you feel that they're nodding their heads right as you're walking through, and you're asking them what I call trial close things, like, how soon do you want to get it on the market? Do you think you could get it on the market by next week? Okay, if they're helping answer some of those things that you're talking to them about, you need to close the listing right then. You need to say, let me get the paperwork for you. Are you prepared to sign now, or would you like me to docu-sign it to you in the next hour or so? So ask for the listing. Make sense? We agree? I've got so many little dough ball people that I can't tell if they agree or not, but some of you are at least shaking your heads. So again, I hope this was of value today. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me and ask. And again, we have an incredible marketing team that can send this to you in a heartbeat. So just ask. But again, it's been a great tool in my career. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. So yeah, marketing can add some of the personalized pages to that for you. So they can do your bio. I also had them add a page of testimonials. So past clients that have, raved about me. So that has been really nice. We're going to go over a little bit more pricing. The second step to the listing presentation, if you are going to do that two-step listing presentation, which is so helpful. And then also go over kind of working with your seller through the transactions, through the marketing and servicing the listing. So any other questions for Randy?
Thank you, everybody. And those of you in Mendocino County, I will see you Wednesday morning.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. So there's some music in the background. Let me know if it's too loud and you can't hear. So a couple of points. Larry Doss from our Ming Tree branch of the company is going to do a full pricing deep dive into pricing coming up soon. We're just working to get that on the calendar. A couple of comments that I would just like to add about pricing. I mean, Randy does so much great info there about pricing. I always talk to clients about pricing being a tool in your marketing, right? So everything that myself and the seller is going to do until the home gets on the market is designed to get people to walk into that home, right? If a buyer doesn't walk into the home to take a look at it and fall in love with it, then they're never going to write an offer. So all the marketing, the property preparation, and pricing is all needs to be designed to get people to actually come visit the home. So when I'm talking about pricing, that's one piece that I like to point out to them. I also talk to them about it being an ongoing conversation, right? Sometimes you're doing this pre-listing or listing presentation months before you actually are going on the market. And so, I always talk to sellers about, as we keep going, I'm going to keep researching and seeing every comparable home that does come up on the market and that does sell until you get on the market, so that we can best position their property with price. And then I talk about how it needs to be very strategic, right? So we look at all the comps and determine what a good price is. And then just the day or two before you go on the market, I always like to take another look and see what else is active currently that's really going to be a good comp, because a buyer is going to go look at every home in that neighborhood in the 650 price range, right? And so you can price very strategically then if you think, okay, this house is much, much nicer, or if it's not, but even if it's a little bit nicer, maybe pricing a little bit just below so that people feel like that's a really good, it's a good value, right? So it's a part of marketing. It's an ongoing conversation, and it should be done very strategically. That's how I like to talk to and think about pricing. Again, Larry's going to do a whole presentation on pricing, and I'm still hoping to do the Moxie Present training again, which is that interactive CMA. But today I want to talk more about the second step. If you're going to do a 2-part listing presentation, Randy just covered that pre-listing. When you go look at the home, a lot of conversation happens there. Sometimes there's a lot of different ways you can handle it. For your second part of your listing presentation, I know with Randy, he covers a lot in the first appointment. And then at the second one, he's really just bringing price and signing the agreement, right? It's pretty straightforward. And it's not so much a presentation as just getting the listing. Sometimes agents want to have a lot more information and do more of a presentation going over price in detail, as well as a lot of the other aspects. So I just want to show you a couple of options if you want to have more of a presentation at that second appointment. The company, Haley, has let me find it here before I bring it up. Where is it? There it is. Haley has created, very similar to that pre-listing presentation, another document, which is a home seller's guide. And this can be gone through at your listing presentation. Again, it's very similar, but this one you would actually bring all the comparable properties. You would go more in depth on pricing with specifics. And then a lot of the other information in here is similar to that pre-listing, the pre-listing packet. So I think most people are going to do one or the other, right? Do the pre-listing, this, and then maybe take bits and pieces out of this if you like this style. What I do is I have my own, I have a binder, which I left it at the office, so I don't have it with me, but it has all of the main pages of all the talking points in the binder. So I sort of flip through. So you could also do that with this home seller guide, flip it through a binder and go over all the points you want to talk about. Also, if you're more of a slideshow computer kind of person, a lot of agents do a presentation on their computer for their second step of the listing presentation. Now, in the greenhouse, there is a full listing presentation available for you that you can go in and personalize. It is pretty in-depth. Let me see how many pages it is. Can you guys see this okay? The says home sales strategy. You guys see it? No? Darn it. All right, let me try again. Okay, can you see it now? Home sales strategy. Yes. Okay, awesome. This is a 34-page presentation that's in basically like slides. So you can have it, you can personalize it, have it all uploaded on your computer, or you can just take and go through this. At the bottom of each page, you can see here is there's notes about talking points. So you could create this listing presentation, even if you're not going to actually use the entire thing, you could go through it and practice your presentation, right? So go through every step and using the talking points at the bottom, cover all the details that you want to cover in your presentation so you have that experience. I do it at home all the time. My kids think I'm crazy. Before every time I meet with someone or I'm going to do one of these classes, I practice it all. I go through and say out loud all the things I'm going to say. I don't think you're crazy. I don't know if you guys just heard my son. He's all, I don't think you're crazy. They haven't started school yet. So, sorry, that got me off track. But the more you repeat it, you practice and repeat, the more it's just going to come off very natural when you are actually in front of a potential client or a client. So, you know, the next time we do foundations class, it's going to be in person in the Santa Rosa office, and we will actually sit down and practice these together because it's really, really valuable. The more you repeat it, the more times you go through it, the more you're going to be able to just come off natural, with authority, with confidence, and really help people understand what, you know, what they need to know about listing their home. So you can see in here, you can put a personal page in, you can put testimonials. There's information about the company, talks about, it's many of the same things as in that pre-listing packet. So I'm not going to go into detail here for you, but just know it's here as a really great resource. And then again, at the bottom, it has the talking points. So here it talks about those core values: passion, authenticity, inclusion, growth, excellent, and explains those. So find what really resonates with you and get it in your own voice so that you can come across and, you know, explain to your client what you need them to know and have them trust you, right? That's the bottom line. If you practice it and it's really coming from you, then you're going to be trustworthy. People are going to feel like it makes sense. So it goes into the strategies for selling your home. The 5 strategies are consulting, competitive pricing. You can change all of this. You can go in and make any changes you want. So if it's not the way you're going to do business, then don't, you know, you can take out a page, you can add a page, whatever you want. But it is a great starting place to work with. It looks nice, it's clean. I found it was way too long. If I actually went through 34 pages, I would be there for 3 hours. And not, you know, the seller's eyes glaze over. They don't hear half of what you say. You know, it's more important to really get down to those important details, right? But there's great stuff in here. It goes over a lot of the same things, how we're going to present this, you know, how we're going to present how we're going to market their property, all the different tools that we have at our fingertips to use. Everything in here. There's some things I would take some of these out. This is a great place to tell people about the BHGRE Moves program if you're going to sign them up for that. And then look, customizable slides. So then whatever you want to add in there, things you can do specifically for your own thing.
Heather,
All right.
what was this at again?
What's that?
Where can we find this again?
Oh, great question. So you go to Greenhouse, log into Greenhouse, and then you go into marketing and then presentations. Do you guys want me to show you that real quick?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let
Yeah,
me
thank
pull
you.
up. Yeah, you bet. Okay. Log out. Okay. Just a second. Let me log back in. Okay. Okay, now tell me if it doesn't advance, because every time I do a new page, sometimes it doesn't stick with the sharing. All right, so I'm gonna log in on Greenhouse. Always the most important first step, because nothing works if you're not logged in, even though it seems like it's working. Okay, right here in marketing, over on the left-hand side, click on that drop down menu to presentations. You just click on presentations. Slow as molasses.
So if we go into this and make our own changes, it just saves to our account, right? It doesn't like change everything? Or do you like
It does
download
not
it?
change it in Greenhouse. Now, I think what I did, it's been a while since I did this, but I believe what I did was downloaded it. So, and then I can make all the changes and it was just on my own computer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So presentations, and then over here is a list of all the different presentations they have. There's buyer presentations. There's a curb appeal guide, all sorts of stuff. But right in here is that listing presentations. You just click on that and it takes you there. View presentations. And presentation, and there's a horizontal and a vertical. I like the horizontal for your computer, but if you're going to print it, the vertical one, you know, I would say use the one that Haley came up with. But if you wanted to, you know, do something different, there's a vertical one. There's the buyer presentation, distinctive collection, and then they're all down here as well in Spanish. So there they are. I encourage you to create one and just start practicing, right? Even if you can get a family member or a friend, if you haven't done a ton of listing presentations, then practice it. Get it so that it's part of your vocabulary. Now, I see there's a few people on today. I know Jessica's had a bunch of listings and Trudy. Anybody, either of you guys, any other tips, things that you find are really valuable in your listing presentation? Do you use slides? Do you have notes? What format do you use?
Usually I drop off the pre-listing packet when I see the house for the first time. And then the second time when I go, or basically the second time normally I just send them the email presentation and they're fine with that. And then they go, okay, sure, send me the contract. I'm ready to sign.
When you say, that's awesome. So when you say the email presentation, is that like what is that? Is that
I'm sorry. That's through Moxie. So I always do my CMAs and my presentation through Moxie. And then I email my presentation through to them. And then I always give them the PDF version because we have a lot of older clientele here in Lake County and they are not very they're like, what is this? What do I, and then so I'm like, just click the printer friendly version and then you can scroll through. And so then that worked out. So I always send the PDF version too.
Awesome. Awesome. So you use Moxie Present, you do a CMA. Have you also added pages there of other listing information?
I haven't got that creative with it. Because of how busy I am, I haven't had time to sit down and actually play with it. So I just do the brokerage version. I have sent the other version, which is the Better Homes and Gardens version before, but that's the really, really long one. Right. And I took out a bunch of pages that wasn't needed. And so then mostly I just do the brokerage one, which is 11 pages. And I always take out the net proceeds just because I don't want to open up that window of talk of, well, what about this? What about that? And I don't really, do you want to sell or not? I mean, it's either you're ready to list or you're not. Like, that's what it boils down to. It doesn't boil down to every cent that you're going to get back. It's just, you're ready or not.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. That Moxie Present is a really, really lovely presentation. Trudy, are you there? Do you want to throw in any suggestions? She may have walked away from her computer. Okay. All right, any questions about, there's so many different ways that you can do a listing presentation. The 2-part presentation is awesome. That pre-listing packet is great. It answers so many of the questions that your clients are going to have, right? Like Randy said, it's a objection handler. It's already in there. So they've looked at some information and then if they have questions, they can ask you, right? Okay, great. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Now we're talking about, okay, awesome. You got the listing. All right. You have sat down and signed the listing agreement with them. You've talked about timing and motivation and all the things that Randy covered. And now what do? So let me share with you another thing that I have. I just have to make sure it's on the right page. All right, share screen. Okay, so once you've got the listing agreement, obviously, you're going to be doing things the way your client wants and needs you to do them, right? I suggest using the listing agreement. If possible, I always sit down with my client when they sign the listing agreement, because the listing agreement has a ton of great talking points in it that you can, when you go over it with them, make sure that you cover so you don't forget later, right? I'm always worried I'm going to leave something out. There's a section in the listing agreement about security, right? There's a part about, and I use that to say, make sure you put away your medications, make sure you don't leave cash out on the, on the counter. I talk to them about, you're going to be having people come through your house, and that's a weird thing, right? Weird things might happen. All the agents, we all try to make sure the house is locked up, everything is done well, but strange things happen. Sometimes, a window gets left open, or, I try to, again, talk about worst case scenarios so that when little things happen, they go, oh yeah, Heather told me that was going to happen, right? Instead of like, oh my God, I can't believe this has happened, because all sorts of crazy stuff happens, right? So I use that listing agreement for a lot of those talking points. It talks about the super lockbox. It talks about a yard sign. So I'm talking to my clients about all of those things at that signing of the listing agreement, so that we already have an understanding about things, how some things are going to be handled. I even try to talk to them there or shortly thereafter about how they want showings to be handled, right? Are they living in the home? Do they need 2 hours notice for showings? Or do they need 24 hours because there's a tenant, or maybe they've got dog, whatever it is, or can it be really short notice because the house is actually vacant? So getting all that information up front is really helpful so that you can better manage it along the way. I have this checklist here of the things that I do when I have a listing. Every time I have a listing, I add or take away from this. So it's kind of a living document, for me. I will share, I'll put a link in there in the chat for you guys. If you want a copy of this, you can copy and paste it into your own program and change it and go crazy with it. But I find it really helpful to help me think of all the steps I need to take. If you've never done a listing before, I remember the first time I did one, I did not order a yard sign. I was like, oh, how do the yard signs appear at the house, right? So a list like this is really helpful to remember all those steps. Again, you may or may not do some of these. I really, Randy was talking about, we've got to up our game right now. So some of these, people aren't doing some of these, but I really recommend you consider, oh, is that something I can, even if you've been doing listings for a while, is that something I can, add to my like suite of services, the things that I do to up my game a little, right? Because listings are taking a little longer to sell. All right, so listing agreement. Then we have the MLS exclusion form. If you aren't going to get the property on within 3 days, MLS, at least Veris does, I don't know if all the MLSs do, but they require that you have the seller sign a document saying that it doesn't have to go on the market right away. And you have to go into the MLS and fill out a form for that. I always try to get my TIS, that's the transaction information sheet, and all the docs over to Katie and whoever your TC is. So we submit those to the company so that they have a record and know what's happening. Then for a listing, I always ask the TC to order the natural hazard disclosure, and if it's in an HOA, order HOA docs. I most often pre-open escrow, so you can contact an escrow company. If your seller has someone they like to use them, and have them open up escrow, and then you'll get a preliminary title report. That's really valuable because if there's any little, if there's any liens on title, if there's any, I've had titles where a past owner from 40 years ago is still showing up on title. So if you do a prelim, a pre-open escrow, then you can take care of those problems up front before you even go on the market, instead of scrambling and trying to do it once you're in contract. The MLS has an input form you can print up. When I first started out, I took that to every listing with me. So I made sure I would ask the question, is there AC? What type of roof? All the information that you can input into the MLS. That way I would remember to find out that information. So I don't do that anymore because it's like so stuck in my head, but it is a really nice resource when you start. In the MLS, there's some things that are required and some that aren't. So it has everything you could input in the MLS on it. From there, I always really encourage sellers to get pest and home inspections. If it's a rural property, get septic and well. If the roof looks rough, get a roof inspection. And more we're seeing sewer lateral inspections in the older homes in Sonoma County. So you can talk with your client about that. I have we can go in deep on that, but it is really valuable to have your sellers do inspections before going on market. If at all possible, it will save them money in the long run, most likely, because they will find out things that they didn't know about. And if a buyer does it, then typically the buyer will come back and ask for adjustments, concessions for those things. They might ask for a credit or a price reduction because they found out something wrong with the property. So if you know before going on market, you are more able to avoid later renegotiation. Then I schedule photos. Now, professional photography, fantastic.
What's up?
Video, fantastic. And
Huh?
a 3D
What's
tour.
happening?
Is there somebody have a question? No, I think somebody just isn't muted. No problem. Now, you can get a Matterport tour, or I think the company has these. These are little 3D home tour cameras, and then it gets uploaded to Zillow. And I'll tell you, it makes it so my listings show up so much higher on all searches. Shows up higher in Zillow, shows up higher in all the searches. So definitely welcome to borrow mine if you want, or get that Matterport tour. Matterport's great because it also, they create a, I believe, I've never used Matterport, but I believe they do a floor plan, right? They draw out the house, a floor plan of the house, which is a pretty cool thing to include as well. Then talking to, what your seller is going to do to prepare the property. Now, again, this is a lengthy, we can talk a lot about things that a seller might want to do. And maybe, Randy would be great. I'll have Randy do a class on what he recommends. I think that's, other than pricing, sorry, I'm going to write this down so I don't forget. Other than pricing, I think this is one of the biggest questions that sellers have. What should I do to my property to prepare it for sale to get the highest dollar for it? Well, there's, right? Clean up the yard, put down fresh bark, add some flowers, paint the inside. But then there's beyond that, right? Oh, should I go ahead? The bathroom, that's the tiles falling off the walls. So it's I find it challenging to talk to sellers about, right? That how much they should put out to improve the property financially, and will they get that back when they sell? You know, most often they won't get the full amount back, but it might often makes the house sell much more quickly and much more, and for more. So I'm gonna have Randy do a whole thing on that because it's a big question. Then if you're going to get the property staged, I often, I consult with my clients about things they can do to prepare to basically to stage their home, putting away, 40% of their belongings, putting it in storage. Most people just put too much stuff. And the more they get rid of it, put it away, the bigger a house seems. And then from there, taking their furniture and helping them arrange it in a way and really make it flow well, make it look nice so that people come in and have a real positive feeling. If the property's vacant, having a professional stager bring in furniture is very valuable. It's expensive. And again, a seller has to decide if they want to do it. I've had several properties that were vacant and I had you can have virtual staging done. So you get the photos done empty. And then I think it's like $15 to $25 per photo where they add in, a living room and a dining room and those sort of things. And I've had really good success with that. I think a lot of people they don't have a lot of imagination. And so they can't how would I use the space? Those sort of things. And that's where staging in general helps. But the virtual staging, I think, just makes those photos, not only defines the spaces, but it also gives people a concept of how big things are, right? And makes the home feel more homey. So I love the virtual stage. I love all staging. The more staging, the better. Then you need to put a lockbox on. There's a Sonoma County has a coming soon page on Facebook. I imagine, I don't know if Lake County does, but it's a great place to put it. No, nothing like that. On Facebook, it's a great place to put a property that's coming soon. Determine how you're going to do showings with the seller. I use Showing Time. It's right there on the listing. And even when a property is vacant, I love people to have an appointment because then, especially the first, 3 or 4 days you're on the market, I hate it when I've, made an appointment with my client and there's 3 other people there waiting to see it. I don't like to do that. I want to be able to have an appointment and go see it. So I set up Showing Time. You can also do Calendly. You can have buyers agents contact you directly. Some agents have the buyer's agent contact the seller directly. I personally want to manage that for my sellers. I know a lot of sellers find that very overwhelming to have a whole bunch of agents calling them. So I either do Showing Time or I manage it myself with texts and checking in with the seller. But everybody, you have to do what is going to work for you and your seller. Showing Time is great because you can have it where you have to approve the showing. So, you say yes, you can set it up where certain times are not available. So like if I had a seller not too long ago who was having a memorial service at her house on one Saturday. And so that Saturday we just blocked it off, no showings allowed. And then you don't even get requests for it. People just go into Showing Time and see it. You could also have it every time a showing is confirmed that it tells the seller, right? It sends them I think they can either do email or a text. So I like Showing Time a lot. If you're going to do just listed postcards, you want to order those. You can get a list from your local escrow and title company. They'll give you a list of the neighbors. That can be very valuable. You can put the property into the MLS as a coming soon. And then also, even if you're not going to do that, announce it at your local MLS meetings, right? Hey, I've got a listing coming soon, telling people about it. I've done several transactions where I either found a home for a buyer or helped a seller do an off market just by announcing it on the MLS at the MLS meetings. Order yard sign. I like to do the TDS and the SPQ, which is the transfer disclosure statement and the seller property questionnaire. those are the most important seller disclosures. So I will offer, typically what I do is I provide a blank copy of those when I go to sign the listing agreement. I don't go over them that day because I find it's too much information, but I leave it with them and I let them know they can either fill it out themselves, or I use Glide and I send them where they can just fill it out online. And I can cover that in a tech training on another day. But those are the two most important. So I try to get those early on so that we can include them with all disclosures. I do my AVID, my agent visual inspection disclosure, and then I create the disclosures IO package. I think most agents are using that. Jessica, you guys have that in your MLS, the disclosures IL? A lot of people using that up there as well.
Well, it's not in our MLS. We have to, like, Katie makes it for me and then I copy and paste the link into the,
Oh yeah, yeah, it's not in our MLS either. I don't know why I said that. Yeah, but most agents using it, would you say, for most listings up there?
it's helpful. It definitely is helpful. I don't see it very often though.
Oh,
Not a
really?
lot of
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot of agents use it.
Yeah.
I
Sonoma
think a lot
County-
of the agents here
Mhm.
don't do disclosures when they take the listing. That's my opinion. They usually do the disclosures when they get an accepted offer and just,
Ah. Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yep, Sonoma County is definitely, I think it started in San Francisco where so many disclosures were done up front, and it's moved up to us, but it hasn't got up to you yet. Because most of the time you'll see a disclosure IO package, so it's really nice. You know, a buyer can make an offer with all that knowledge up front. So, okay, cool. Then once you've gathered everything together and you're ready to go live, you input the information in the MLS. You can wait and you don't have to go live that day. It can, you can work on it in advance. You upload all the photos to the MLS. I like to create, depending on the property, I will often create a binder to have at the listing with the major disclosures in it. So the pest and the home inspection, the TDS and the SPQ, maybe my AVID, so that when people are showing it, they can look through that on site if they have any questions about it. I think that's really helpful. I also on site, I have a stand with flyers and my business cards. So that's all there as well. I already said order the yard sign. I highly recommend using the text BHGRE signs as well. I add those on myself after the yard sign is up. That allows people to, when they see your sign, they can text for property info and then you get their contact info. So it's really nice. Then as soon as the property is live, I start doing a very major social media marketing. You can do a lot and get a lot of exposure on Facebook and Instagram. I also put ads on Craigslist. Now I do all of these I do over and over and over again. So I will do a, coming soon, and then I'll do a just listed, and then I'll do, if we have any price adjustments, price improvements, what have you. Better Homes gives you a 3-day free boost in Facebook. You'll get an email for that. So make sure you keep your eye out for it and accept it, right? It's free. You can go in there and increase that. You can lengthen it out. You can change it to a video, for a cost, but it's already kind of done for you. So that's pretty nice. Don't forget to put it on your personal and your business pages if you have both. Video is the most effective to get people to what they call stop the scroll. They're kind of cruising through Facebook. A video is going to pop out more than a static photo. I use both though, right? Some people love video, some people don't. So I try to have it all mediums so that I get as much engagement as possible. Let's see what else we've got here. You can also do, ads on Facebook. I just thought this was really interesting. When I was in Hawaii a few weeks ago, my dog got lost. It was horrible. 3 times. It was horrible. I did a Facebook post on my just, I have a fairly good following, and I think like 42 people saw that post. Well, I actually put an ad behind it because I was desperate, and over 6,000 people from an ad that I did 2 days, I spent like $15, over 6,000 people saw that post. So that's just to give you a little idea of the power of putting a little bit of money behind a Facebook ad. You might consider it. I think it's a really, we owe it to our clients to get as much exposure on their properties as possible. So you can really increase that on social media by putting a little ad behind it. Okay. Are you going to do open houses and a broker tour open house? Broker tour, everybody has different opinions about both of these. Broker tour is a great time. Agent, the property. I love to get as many agents as possible. Sorry, my kids are yelling at each other. I love to get as many agents to come take a look. That NAR study that they do every year, it's something like 7% of buyers last year first heard about the home they bought by their agents. They didn't see it online. They didn't see it anywhere. Their agent specifically told them about it. So I'm going to spend a little bit to get agents to come take a look at the home. And then open houses. Now, how can we make our open houses valuable? Invite the neighbors, right? I don't provide food at open houses. I just find the kids make a mess. But sometimes, cook cookies, it makes it smell great, right? But you do want to put in an ad for your open house in whatever local newspaper. Everyone has a different Press Democrat. It has to be in by noon on Wednesday. Sonoma Tribune, I think sometime on Tuesday. Every newspaper is a little different and how they do it. So check in with your agent coordinator in your office. They can help you with that. They will actually submit that for you, but find out when it needs to be done. I already said flyers of the property. If you're going to do any ads like Homes and Land or in the Real Estate Weekly Reader, that's awesome. And then so major is your follow-up. Randy touched on following up with your listings. There is a bunch of things that I think are vital. One, follow up with every agent that shows it. If you do a broker's open, talk to the agents there to get some feedback, right? But follow up with every agent that shows it. You will get in your lockbox program.
What happened?
Sorry. Where was I? Oh, you're going to get you have access to your the records of your lockbox, right? So go in and see every agent that has access the house through the lockbox. Give them a call is a great way to do it, or email. I like email because then I can actually copy and paste it for my sellers. But when I email an agent to follow up after a showing, I always put in a photo of the house because, you guys know, right? We go and we show 3 to 5 houses. And then when they ask you about 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street, you're like, I don't even know what house that is. So put in a photo of it, a little bit of info about the house, and then ask some specific questions. I find is also really valuable. If you just ask for feedback, you may or may not get, people like, oh, I don't know what to say. But if you ask specifically, what do you think of price? What do you think, is there anything in the condition that, didn't work for your client, whatever. Come up with some questions. I think that's a great way to do it. Now, come up with a system when you're doing your listing appointment. Talk to your clients about how you're going to communicate with them, right? Decide on how often you're going to reach out to a client and then do that. So I always update any sellers on Mondays and Thursdays. You know, obviously other things come up and I'm talking to them other times, but Mondays, I always do a summary of everything that happened over the weekend, right? If we had open houses, I always tell them right after an open house, but Monday I do a nice summary of all that. And then Thursdays, typically I do a summary of all the social media, all the advertising and marketing, and what that is. If you, if you sign up on Redfin, I think it is, they'll send you their summary of how many people have looked at it. You can go onto Zillow and get how many people actually have hearted, loved, and how many people have viewed the home. So that information is really helpful to your seller. Now, one of the biggest complaints that I ever hear from sellers is, well, they put it on the MLS and I never really heard from that agent. And I know all of you, right? We're working hard in the background, but if we don't tell the seller what we're doing, they have no idea, right? And so by updating them regularly, Monday and Thursday, or whatever it is, twice a week with everything you've done, it lets them know you're working hard for them, right? And you're working hard to earn that commission, right? That's the biggest complaint. Well, I never heard from them. I don't even think they did anything for me, right? It is, especially in the last while, right? It's a seller's market. This house would have sold no matter what. Well, we work hard for them, so we want them to know. Yeah, so this last bit for me, follow-up is constantly changing what's on social media, redoing a Craigslist ad, putting an open house ad on Craigslist, and on the not the MLS, on social media. I do live Facebook while I'm at the open house or while I'm at the property. Hey, take a look at this amazing property, and you walk around the little things to try to get any hype and any interest and any eyeballs on the property. And I have heard if your listing gets a little stale, I have heard, I don't know if it's true, I've heard that if you go in and rearrange the order of the photos on the MLS, that it will pop up higher in sales. I mean, in searches. Might as well. It's worth a try, right? I don't know if it really works or not, but I've heard it does. So, otherwise, then you get an offer, and then that's a whole nother discussion, right? Negotiating and following up and managing a transaction. But this is all the things that you want to consider doing before even going on the market, or as soon as you go on the market, before you get an offer. All right, that's a lot. I will give you guys I will pop this in the, let's see, how do I get it? Oh, I know how to do it. I can pop this link to this in the chat if you guys would like it. All right, any questions? Any questions? Trying to find this so I can pop it. Open house checklist. Link. Copy link. Okay, here is a link. You guys, hopefully that works. Oops, I did it to just one person. That doesn't work. Control V. Okay, there is a link. I am creating in my Google Drive. I have a folder that's all the resources I talk about like this. That I now, anytime you get an email for training or class email from me, at the bottom of it, it's going to have a link to that Google folder, as well as a link to the Google and the Outlook calendars where it has all the classes on it. So trying to make things a little easier where everybody can know where to find those resources. All right, what do you guys think? Any questions? This is no. Oh, that was the open house checklist. Sorry, I was doing it so quick. No, here. That in the bottom of here we go. In the bottom of my email, it will be a link to the entire folder with all the resources. But this link here is everyone in meeting. Here we go. All right, there is the link for the listing. I believe so. Is that the listing checklist there? All right, cool. And again, once you put it into yours, you can make a copy and then just change it, right? Add if you do more steps, if you take out, if you don't do some, change it,
Uh-oh.
make it your own.
Happened.
Anybody have steps that I missed that you do, things you do?
Huh?
All right. All right, any questions or thoughts? You guys ready to go out there and get some listings?
What was that little camera thing that you were holding up again that does like the virtual photo,
Yeah,
is
this
that?
is, you know, when you go on Zillow or actually even on just on Google Maps and there's the, you can do like a walkthrough tour. You can like turn around and everything. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
That camera takes those photos.
and that's something that the office shares, or do we have to
You
get our
know,
own?
So we had, I know the company bought like 3 of those. And we had certain photographers that we loaned them to so they'd be able to do it for us. And I don't know if we have them anymore. I don't know if those, I know one of those photographers isn't doing it anymore, so I'll have to look into that. But I have my own. 'cause
What's
I
it
like,
called again?
it's a 3D home tour. The camera, I don't know what the camera is. Use mine for right now. It's a Theta.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you have to have an you have to link it with your phone and then it automatically, it's pretty cool. I'll show you how to use it. If anybody
Cool.
wants to borrow it or know how to use it, I'm happy to do that. All right, well, we are over time. If there's no questions or thoughts or anything, I'm gonna stop the recording. There we go. Stop recording.